Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. Today a side-by-side comparison of SIG's P320, this is the XCompact, versus SIG's P365, this is the XL. Two excellent small firearms that are great for carry, concealed carry. And I have a history of both, and I'd like to talk about how I chose one versus the other first, and what my journey's been like with both. As always, I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Thanks for being here. If you've returned viewer, thanks for coming back. If you've never been here before, please consider subscribing. I try to get new content out every week. And as always, please feel free to sound off in the comments with any experiences you have with the P320 or the 365 or both of them, because people researching either firearm, I think, read the comments on YouTube and get good feedback that way. So thanks for watching. And again, without further ado, the P320 XCompact and the 365XL, two small SIG carry guns that I have. And essentially, they're both striker fire guns that are really small, can carry inside the waistband or not. There's multiple versions of all of these. There's more P320s than I have fingers and toes times 10 probably. And the same with the 365. SIG keeps enhancing and growing these. But these are pretty basic models. And very early in my gun, when I first started getting into guns, my first couple of guns were full-size firearms. I didn't have anything to carry. So I was torn between buying a 365 or a P320. And I'll tell you, my journey is that on the P365 seemed like the obvious choice. They were everywhere in the market, and I do mean everywhere. I think local pharmacies had them for sale. So they were everywhere, but the optic that came with them, from SIG at least, was the Romeo Zero, which did not get great reviews. I did want to put my first optic on my carry gun, so I wound up not buying the 365XL initially, and I bought the P320 XCompact. Again, it had the black grips on here. So I could put a SIG Romeo 1 Pro optic on there because it had glass front and it had much better reviews. And so for years, this was my carry gun. I carried it, I did all my qualifying with it. It's very easy to shoot. We'll look at the trigger in a second, and very accurate, especially with the dot on there. So I had tons and tons of rounds through this firearm. But one thing I did notice was that it was a little thick as I carried it. And you don't think much about 1.3 inches versus 1 inch, not a whole lot of difference maybe, but there is a world of difference. Once I actually spent more time with someone else's 365 and tried to carry it, I was sold that I had to have the 365 because it is way more comfortable to carry. So these two kind of separated in my life, and I had them for different reasons. The 365 became my everyday carry gun, and it's been that way for years. Lately, it's been splitting time with H&K CC9, but it's still a gun that I love to carry, as does my wife. And the 320 kind of went to be a range toy and or a Lego set for big boys, because some of the key features of this firearm, again, they're both striker fire guns, pretty basic operations of all of them. They have a pick rail here, a proprietary rail on this guy, but they both have fire control units that are removable. The serialized portion of the P320 is actually only the fire control unit on the inside. The frame, or the grips and the slides, everything else is interchangeable. So I quickly became a big fan of removing the fire control unit out of this, which is really easy to do, and then replacing all different parts. My first thing I replaced was the standard black grip that came on here with this Wilson Combat Grip module. I just drove down to Bearville and bought one at their store there and loved the way that felt. But then later on, I learned to buy different sizes and different calibers to make different firearms. I think next went with a full-size firearm with a slide on here, the full-size slide and barrel and full-size grip. And it was chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson and 357 SIG. So I have a 357 SIG firearm that I can shoot with the same fire control unit. And then I had a metal carry frame with a different slide up here. I've got probably 10 different guns, if not more, I can make with one fire control unit. So the modularity of this gun is absolutely spectacular, and it is a very easy gun to shoot. We'll look at the trigger in just a second. So love, love, love this gun, but it really became more of a modular play toy for me and or range toy versus an everyday carry like the SIG. Now the SIG, the 365XL. And you will note that I have a safety on here. Normally, I'm a hammer fire guy. I like the safety of having your thumb on a hammer as you holster it because there's no chance the gun can fire. And yes, the P320 is in the news for being a self-firing pistol. Tens of thousands and thousands of rounds through this firearm, and I've never had one negligent shot. You know, it only fires when I pull the trigger. So no, I've never had issues with it, but it is in the news. And oddly enough, when I was carrying this early on in my journey, I did not carry with one in the chamber. Cardinal sin, I know, so I never had to worry about it. Once I did want to carry with one in the chamber, again, don't love striker fire pistols because there's not a whole lot to them. I did choose to put a safety on my 365. I buy the version with the safety. So I have the extra layer of protection as I'm carrying an appendix. So my journey was 2 firearms. The first gun I bought, but then the gun that I actually wound up carrying all the time anyway. And this gun just became a different animal as a big boys Lego set for me, making different firearms out of one gun. Both are incredibly shootable, and I have ran the 365 with a hollow sun on there, and it's very accurate. I don't have it on here now, but this gun is actually a little more accurate as I shoot it, as you expect, because it's slightly longer, a little better grip, and the trigger is actually pretty good in both. I'm so clear so no one panics here. But the trigger is very good. But one thing I did notice is I've shot it so much, there's no audible reset. It's just there and it shoots again. So listen, no reset, or no audible reset. Barely tactile as well. So very soft trigger, but it's a good shooting trigger. I like it better than the Glock trigger personally. And then 365XL also is a flat trigger. They both break at 90 degrees, but the trigger here is definitely more audible. Oh, my safety's on. That's how that works. See, to protect myself from being an idiot. So there's the click. And you hear the reset is there. You're right back at the wall. So both have excellent triggers that break at 90 degrees. It's just that this one has been a lot more quiet than this guy. So other than that, they're both great guns. I like them a lot. This guy's a little bit big for appendix or for a carry inside the waistband. This guy's perfect for inside the waistband. A lot of fun with modularity of this firearm. I'll try to post one of my earlier videos when I talk about all the different firearms I made with this guy versus this guy. So again, my journey, my first big decision I had to make, the first comparison I had to choose from was between a P320 XCompact and the P365XL. I chose this one as my carry gun, and I probably chose badly because I think this is probably the best carry gun SIG makes. But the P320 is also an excellent firearm that you can do a lot of things with. And yes, I know it's controversial, but it's never done anything bad to me. So that's my history with it. Again, we'd love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on these 2 firearms? And as always, thank you so much for watching.